Hello, all sports fans, and welcome to All Sorts of Sports Shorts. The XFL is everywhere, from ABC to ESPN, and now this C-Grade podcast. Throughout this episode, football fan and quote-unquote amateur enthusiast John Gerchak and I sit down, analyze XFL's Week 1, and how we'll see the XFL moving forward. Enjoy.
Welcome to your completely non-opinionated and super statistical sports podcast, All Sorts of Sports Shorts. Hosted by a man that could outscreen most goats, plug in a cell phone charger with a single foot, and occasionally refuses to acknowledge the metric system, Nicholas Sarysz.
I have my guest here, John. John, thank you for joining the podcast.
It's great to be here, Nick. I can't wait to discuss the XFL today.
So, John, what did you see out of the first week of the XFL that you liked and both didn't like?
I really liked the level of play. I thought it was a lot better than I was expecting. I was thinking it was going to be high school football play, but it was closer like D1, D2 college play all the time. And at its best, it was rivaling like bad teams in the NFL. I was like, oh, wow. But what I didn't like, I'm going to be honest, I didn't like those sideline interviews. I thought they were kind of contrived, and I just wasn't a fan of them. I know a lot of people liked them, though. I know a lot of people liked hearing the coaches' plays, but I just didn't. What do you think about that?
I especially didn't enjoy that you could hear the coaches talking. I mean, of course, football announcers within themselves are never that fun to listen to, but it was even worse trying to listen to the plays because I don't know what half of those words mean. And then when you see it written out of the play, it's like, okay, that was the fourth time they called a screen pass using different language.
No, the thing is, all the announcers in the booth always had their playbooks in front of them. So when the coach called a play, they'd be like, oh, audience, this is exactly what this play is. Can't wait to see it. Like, it took all the suspension out of the play, at least from my perspective.
Oh, see, I wasn't paying close enough attention to realize that that they were both just talking about the play. I was trying to watch football, and I felt like it was very distracting.
Oh, yeah, they're like, okay, boys, time for a run to the right. Can't wait. It takes all the fun out of watching it.
That makes sense. I mean, it also isn't interesting that every game was a blowout by at least
11 points or more.
Yeah,
right?
except for one. The Battlehawks and Renegades is only 15-9.
But that's a low-scoring game, so that's boring in another respect. Big sad. Also, did you notice any of those logos seem familiar? Yes, they're all recycled Madden logos, if any of you guys didn't pick up on that. Or at least half of them are. If you go play Madden and relocate your franchise, you can be these teams' logos. I just thought that was really funny. What are they, public domain?
Possibly.
I mean, I've actually played as the Renegades before, and let me tell you, my Renegades team on Madden was much better than the level of play I saw from the Renegades team coming out this week.
Well, the fact that they only scored 9 points and weren't even the lowest scoring team of the week.
Oh my, they weren't? I thought they were.
No, the Vipers only scored 3.
The Vipers got blown out badly. So I paid the most attention during the Seattle Dragons game, mostly because we're from the Seattle area. Jim Zorn is a hack coach. Let me just start out by saying that. I was not impressed with his quarterbacking play from the little bit of film I saw from the 80s, and I'm even less impressed with his coaching ability. How can you not take... You only get 2 timeouts per half, and you can't even take those. Like, what's the point of giving you a third?
Right, and, I mean, Jim Zorn, as a football player, only had an average quarterback rating of 67.3, had 30 more interceptions than touchdowns throughout his career. And who's to think that guy is going to lead our XFL team? That guy is going to coach our quarterbacks, who, not to mention, can't throw anything but a screen pass or a streak.
Yeah, at least he wasn't like one of those peaked in high school coaches that comes out, never played a down in like any like professional league, and just like came out and like, oh, I'm going to coach this team. Can't wait to see what happens. That's what the AAF did, and we saw how that turned out. 1 year, one gone.
Exactly.
So what do you think about the XFL staying power over several seasons? Because obviously it's really up in the air. Well, how's it going now? What do you think?
Well, it definitely depends. I know in the Seattle Dragons game, they had over 1,600 in attendance.
1,600 or 16,000?
16,000. My bad.
Because I was going to say 1,600 seems kind of low.
You're
I know
right.
they weren't at like a professional
No, I think it was
football field.
1,700 in attendance, and that's a fairly good number. Now, I will say XFL tickets are not very expensive in comparison. And in comparison to NFL tickets, they're nothing.
Yeah.
And also, they did get a lot of TV coverage. I mean, they're all signed to TV deals now. ESPN, ABC, I mean, even the worst games are on ESPN2 throughout the season. So
Yeah.
I think if they're able to keep up the TV viewings, it's really what's going to make it.
Oh, yeah, TV ratings matter a lot. I mean, I'm not surprised they got the deals at all. I mean, WWE man has connections, let's be honest. He probably called up, it was like, hey, we'll sign you these rights for a tenth of what the NFL would sign you these rights for. Will you air us? So, like, heck yeah. Everyone has been always wanting to dip into the spring football league because look how everyone wants NFL level money, let's be honest. So the fact that they don't even have to compete with the NFL that much to get it, it's a lot of potential ratings that if you're going to get a reasonable deal, you're going to sign. I'm not surprised they're on TV at all.
Right, and the only thing that is questioning about it is are they going to get enough big names to be able to sustain themselves for people to view this? Because I remember one thing is they were trying to get people such as Colin Kaepernick to sign with the league. Would have been a big mistake. Nobody likes that guy anymore. But when you think about it, it's a matter of people are going to want to see these big names, and people for sure can grow into big names. But the problem they may have is that people are going to use the XFL as a step below the NFL kind of a league where maybe players don't have to go to college, or after college, if they don't get drafted or signed by a team, they could go to the XFL and try to work their way up to be signed by an NFL team. That's one thing that the XFL doesn't have going for them. But another thing that I think they could possibly have going for them is that the commissioner, Oliver Luck, Andrew Luck's father, is honest about this, and he was honest about that when making the player salaries. The average salary that an XFL player earns is around $55,000 for the whole 10-game season. Of course, the quarterbacks, it says, can earn up to $500,000, which I think is a lot in comparison to the average, especially seeing some like the Seattle Dragons quarterback who are just absolute garbage.
Yeah, but $500,000 is like only $200,000 over the NFL minimum wage, basically.
But think $500,000 in the grand scheme of a normal job that these guys have, it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, but they're only gonna have this job for max 5 to 10 years, probably. So you got to put that into perspective.
That's true, but I think the fact that they're not paying their players a ridiculous amount of money, it won't help them keep players, of course, in comparison.
Won't help. They're not going to have anywhere near the star power the NFL is going to have with those kind of salaries. They're not going to be able to retain. The player retention will never be that high just because the salaries aren't enough. Like, you used to look at NFL players, and they're complaining about not getting... They're complaining about their $5 million per year salaries. So you're doing almost the same amount of work. Not quite the same amount of work, but almost, because it's a 10-game season and probably short playoffs. But still, you're doing a buttload of work, physical labor, I know the XFL is supposedly safer. We'll get into the rule changes in a little bit. But... It's not an easy decision. Not nearly as easy as like an NFL $25 million quarterback salary is to not get hit anymore because you can't be hit. Or they're going to throw a flag and give you 15 free yards and no one's going to take that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the XFL has the ability to last a long time, but will it last forever? Will it last as long as the NFL will? And of course, the answer is probably no.
Well, it's just the NFL was really first, let's be honest. And it's kind of like getting on the ground floor of a Ponzi scheme. No one else is... The dreams are there, but let's be honest, you're fifth down the line, son. You're never getting that. You're never going to have that. You'll probably quit after a few years. And it makes me sad, because I really do want to see spring football, but it's not feasible. There isn't enough talent in the world to really sustain it quite to level you have to. There won't be enough star power is the only thing I'm scared of. The hype will die down, and when the hype dies down, that means the amount of money, the amount of revenue they're taking, it dies down, and that means they can't play the players as much, and that means the players don't want to retain as much, and it's just like, it's a loop that doesn't work. You see what I mean, right?
Exactly, yeah, you're right.
It scares me so much.
So do you want to go into the rule changes a little bit?
Yeah. I think the best rule change, in my opinion, is the new kickoff rules.
I would have to agree, 100%.
It's way more interesting to watch kickoffs than not. That should be it. That's all you need to say. Watching kickoffs is more fun than watching them get the ball at the 25-yard line.
Right, and they force you to almost have a return, because if you kick it in the back of the end zone, isn't the ball placed at the 45?
It's the same thing as kicking it out of bounds on the sidelines in the NFL.
Right.
It's just like, you have to let them return it, basically. Also, you can't move until they catch the ball.
Players are up significantly. Where exacly are the players?
I think it's the 35.
Right, and the kicker's back on his 35, but the players are on the opponent's 35.
Yeah, and then the defending or the blocking players are on their own 30, or is it 25? I'm not sure, but they're really close together. So basically, they don't have a lot of time to charge and then hit each other. So that's supposed to be safer. Also, it's supposed to be more fun. I think this is one rule that the NFL should absolutely implement. But there's one that I really think they really shouldn't implement. That being unfortunately, the extra point. It's ridiculous. What do you think?
It's the football scores in XFL games are far different because the extra point is like nowhere secure anymore. But it's almost impossible for some of these teams with the players they have to even score from the 2-yard line, much less trying to score 3 points from the 10.
And then you got the whole part of which one do you go for? It's based off position, obviously. But what the part of I think about is weird is these coaches had no idea how to react to this rule. Like, you've been having training camp for like 6 months. How have you not game plan about this rule? You've known about it for this long, and yet you're still going from the ball from the 2. Like, what's even the point? You might as well go from the 5. Give yourself some room. Like, there's no point in really like going for a 1 point in the extra.
And the thing from the 3-pointer from the 10-yard line is it's boring plays to watch because the defense, all they have to do is defend the goal line. Is what it comes. And it's not that hard from a defensive standpoint to defend the goal line as it would be to defend 50 yards of field on a regular XFL play. So it's a matter of, is it going to entertain an audience for time to come? I don't think so.
I think the game, as it evolves, you're going to be seeing the 5-yard line being the standard, whereas in the NFL, it's obviously the extra point, way easiest. I think the 5-yard line's actually slightly easier than the 2, just because of the fact that you have a little more room to work with. Also, it spreads out the defense a little bit more. You know how it stretches the field, but not to the point where they can just like camp the goal line from the 10.
Right.
Which is what do you think about the other rules?
I know one rule that they have implemented is the double forward pass. So you can throw a forward pass, but as long as the receiver catches it and stays behind the line of scrimmage, they could throw another forward pass. I think that's a cool rule to have. I mean, I don't think we're going to see it used that often because that's going to be ridiculously hard. It works for trick plays.
I think it's more of a non-rule. It's just a rule to make sure they don't have to pay attention to as much stuff on the football field. So it's like, oh, is that quite a lateral? Was that quite not a lateral? Oh, it doesn't matter. It never mattered in the first place, but now it actually doesn't matter in accordance with the rules, which is fine. The NFL can implement it. It won't change a damn thing.
I'm sure it's gonna change something. I'm sure that at some point players are going to draw, or coaches are going to draw up plays where players do a double forward pass. I think we're going to see it. It's just going to be so rare.
I just disagree. Like, you already see it, and it's already a novelty and doesn't work because only one person's actually practicing throwing the football. It's not really like, I don't see it. What are you gonna line up 3 quarterbacks? Oh, we hike it or we snap it to one quarterback, and then am I gonna throw left or right? Oh, both quarterbacks on the sidelines are enabled. They're running streak patterns because we put 3 quarterbacks in the game. Like, none of that doesn't feel necessary. I mean, it feels like one of those rules that's there to make the game easier for officiating, which is fine with me. I like that. But I don't think it's going to make, suddenly this is going to be meta.
One thing I was worried about with the XFL, not necessarily rule changes, but as far as sustainability is concerned, is I wasn't sure going into this season that home field advantage would really mean anything. I mean, these teams aren't established. Nobody really cares about these teams. I mean, clearly that's false because I was very angry to see the Seattle Dragons just go and throw up interceptions at the end of the game.
That was big sad.
I mean, it's watching the DC Defenders and Seattle Dragons game is that there was crowd noise there. But the fact that you got to put in is that
there wasn't as much.
Right, but is there crowd noise just because it was the home opener? Like, that definitely has
definitely.
Is it going to be a sustainable thing for, say, Seattle Dragons games that are played at CenturyLink Field where only the 2 bottom rows are maybe filled halfway?
Yeah, if you're talking about the crowd, the thing I was most surprised about was how much they were wearing Defenders gear. I'm like, was that even on the market? Like, I was surprised. I'm like, wow, you guys are actually all look like a regular football team out here with fans.
I mean,
I thought they'd be mostly Redskins gear, to be fair.
The thing about the Defenders gear, though, is it looks like an actual football uniform. If you look at the other football uniforms, they look like 12-year-old Pee-wee uniforms. I mean, I'm not kidding. They're all like block color. Like the Seattle Dragons is green and orange and blue, all in different like segmented blocks. It looks like a 12-year-old would wear it. Whereas the DC Defenders is actually like
looks
college-looking.
It looks like the XFL once again ripped off Madden and used those custom jerseys.
It really does, though.
Those block like four patch uniforms. Oh my gosh. What do you think about the overtime rules? I think they're really funny, but I don't think they're practical.
I mean, trying to make it a shootout form, having 5 rounds basically, where you have the ball at the 5-yard line, just like kind of we were talking about with the extra point rules. Having the ball at the 5, you get one play. I feel like that's almost an unfair concept because you don't have to be the better team to win that. I mean, you could just have better plays within the 5-yard. Well, I guess you can train and play for that, but I feel like you don't necessarily have to be.
It's just so weird.
Well-rounded.
Yeah, I know. It's just you do because you have to go on offense and defense in reverse.
Well, right, but you don't have to be. I mean, you're not running the things that you could to beat. Like if you're an air the ball out downfield team, you're not going to win overtime. I'm sorry.
Yeah, or if your team's all about stuff that run early. I'm sorry, you got 5 yards.
Right.
But no, I think it's fun to watch. Like, if we got into an overtime game, which I hope we do. I hope we get an overtime, because I just want to see this ridiculousness play out.
I also hope we get into an overtime game, because the XFL games aren't very long.
It's because the 25-second play clock.
Right. I mean,
that's such a big difference. I was expecting it to be a big difference going in. I'm like, this games are going to be fast. I didn't realize these games are fast. Like, these games are so quick. It was like a blink of the eye, and the first 2 quarters were done in the Seattle Dragons game. I'm like, we're already done? It's good because I get to see football the whole time, but it's bad because I don't get to spend 3 hours watching football unless I want to watch multiple games, which, I mean, I'm okay with, but I want to get invested for that full 3 hours on a team that I really care about.
Go Dragons.
Go Dragons! Oh my gosh. What did you think about the coach?
The coach, like, the Jim Zorn?
Jim, my boy Zorn.
I feel like we already talked about this.
No, you talked about him sucking in regular football. You didn't tell me what exactly.
Yeah,
You never said what exactly you hate about his coaching.
Well,
I did. I said I hated that he can't use timeouts.
Well, also the fact that if the quarterback ever threw the ball, it was either behind the line of scrimmage or 40 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. He barely ever threw a regular route.
What's the Seattle Dragon quarterback name? I already forgot because I was like, this guy's trash.
It doesn't matter.
So do you see that when he was like, let me throw a fade route. Or not a fade. Let me throw a 40-yard fade. And let me hit this guy in the back shoulder. Even though he's already beat his man. Are you serious? You're not good enough to throw a back shoulder guy. I know he only needs 1 foot in... that's a rule change that I don't like. 1 foot in bounds? What is this, college? I know you're trying to poach their players, but don't poach their rules. I hate 1 foot in bounds in college, and I hate it in the XFL too. College and the XFL should change that rule to 2 feet in bounds.
Brandon Silvers is his name. 21 for 40, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. I think we should play Daniels, the former Seattle quarterback, the former backup quarterback.
Nice.
At least he has experience. I mean, at least we know he's able to throw to some competent level.
Yeah, but I still can't get over that 1 foot in bounds rule. I hate that rule. Of all the rules you could have picked to poach, why this one?
I mean, it's a very unprofessional rule.
If high schoolers have to get 2 feet in bounds, college athletes and XFL athletes should have to get 2 feet in bounds. I'm tired of these because it makes the sideline catches so ridiculous.
Right.
Like, it looks like the quarterback's going to throw it out of bounds, and suddenly the guy caught the ball. I'm like, you're going to have cornerbacks overplaying until the sidelines, and then you're going to get, what do you mean? He was already out of bounds. How could you push him? Boy, he only needs a toe in bounds to catch that ball. You're completely correct. I'm going to push him. Oh, boy, I'm sorry.
It was okay. It's good you have strong feelings about it. I mean, that shows you're more invested in the league having feelings like that.
I hope a lot of people are actually invested in this league because I do want it to stay. I don't want to mince words. I want this league to be around for a while. But if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet that this league's going to be around for a while.
Right. I mean, its tagline is for the love of football, and as somebody who loves football, I'm glad it's here.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, do you have any predictions for how any of the Week 2 games are going to go? The Dragons play the Vipers in their home opener. The Defenders play in DC again for the second week in a row. They play the Guardians, who won 23-3 over the Vipers last week.
Well, after watching the Vipers game, I really wish we'd bought tickets to that game because I feel like we're going to blow them off the field.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice to see.
They looked horrible in their actual game, so hopefully when we play them, kind of the same stuff happens. Hope Brandon Silvers gets better. I know the man didn't look so great last week, but people can change. And even if he can't, there's a guy behind him that I think is
competent.
The most egregious thing is, coach, use your timeouts. Don't just give up.
Use your full playbook too, and if that's your full playbook, get a new coach.
Yeah, if your full playbook consists of 7 of the same plays, and 5 of them are running plays, and then the other 2 are the same pass play over and over again.
Well, I think we'll see the Dragons beating the Vipers. I don't think it'll be by much.
The Dragons were predicted to be the worst team in the XFL, and off what?
Right.
You saw their lineup, they're like, oh, none of these guys played in college, well, they did. They all played in college, but no. None of these guys were, good in college.
Right. The Guardians, I think, are going to kill the Defenders just as they killed the Vipers. I think that'll be a close and fun game to watch. The Guardians playing the Defenders, 2 p.m. on Saturday. I believe the Dragons will be beating the Vipers on Saturday. Wildcats and Renegades, I think we'll see the Renegades win that game despite being winless, just as the Wildcats are, but they showed a lot more promise than LA did in their first game. With the way the Roughnecks were able to take care of the Wildcats in the first game of the season, I think we'll see them beating the Battlehawks. In Houston, their fans were into it, so that'll be exciting.
In fairness, there was a lot of hype for the opening. Next week, we'll really see how much hype there is.
Yes and no, because some teams haven't had their first home game yet.
Oh, you're not wrong.
I think about midway through the season we'll be able to tell.
I feel like after week 1 though, the hype is going to significantly die down if it's not sustainable. Even if some teams haven't had their home opener yet, every team was already on TV once. That's enough. Is there any bye weeks in the XFL? I don't think there is, right?
No, there's not.
Well, it's only 10-game season, so you don't really need one, in all fairness. So, I'm hyped. Can't wait to go watch my first Dragons game on March 15th with my boy.
Here we go.
Let's go, boys.
Thanks, John, for being on the podcast. And
no, that was fun.
Hope you all enjoyed listening. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of All Sorts of Sports Shorts. I hope you enjoyed, because I know John definitely enjoyed sharing his passion for the XFL, as did I. If you guys did enjoy this, I highly encourage you to rate and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And, at least in my case, go Dragons.